Throughout the course of time, rivers and their tributaries have given man access to fresh water and fertile soils, two vital pieces of a growing population. They not only provide these indirect necessities, but also direct access to food as well. Rivers are formed by the land around them and under them. Depending on the long-term conditions of the region around them, they can significantly change over time. Sometimes, this change comes in the form of flooding or drought, others in geographical changes in the river course itself. Regardless, humans have been able to harness these great water systems for sustenance and transportation. One of these great water systems is the Tennessee River. As the largest tributary of the Ohio River, the Tennessee River stretches 652 miles across the southeastern landscape through Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and Kentucky. The river itself is a U-shaped river that has an average depth of 9 feet. This average can be misleading, as the Tennessee transports boats and barges from its mouth to the Gulf of Mexico, while the river channel's depth consistently sits at a range of 35 to 70 feet, with its deepest section surpassing 100 feet in Watts Bar Lake. The shape of the Tennessee River has perplexed some ancient historians due to its abrupt course change in Chattanooga. For the first leg of its journey, the Tennessee follows a southwesterly path down the East Tennessee Valley from Knoxville to Chattanooga. Suddenly, the river shifts in a westward direction through a steep gorge as it winds into Alabama. Once in Alabama, the river corrects its course to continue following the valley floor southwest until it begins to shift northwest, and then north to meet the Ohio River. The prevailing thought from scholars is that the Tennessee River has existed at least back into the Tertiary period, from 2.6 million to 66 million years ago. During that time, the river ran ever southward from present-day Chattanooga to the Gulf of Mexico, where it emptied directly into the sea. Evidence for this can be offered from the date of the formation of the surrounding valleys above and below Chattanooga. The popular theory is that the valley formed after the Tennessee had already been flowing for some time, thus creating the conditions for stream capture a couple of million years ago. Stream capture is a mechanism in which water systems join together and cause a shift in the direction of the larger system. In this case, scholars believe the Tennessee River had been tapped by a smaller stream at the mouth of the gorge in Chattanooga, causing the Tennessee River to begin emptying in this westward direction, eventually changing the river's entire course to cover the path through the gorge. Among the first historical evidence of settlements along the Tennessee River are early Native American tribes in Alabama during the 15th century. As the natives continued to expand and grow, the Cherokee eventually became the main inhabitants of the Tennessee River system, especially the Little Tennessee River. Upon discovering Cherokee populations along the Tennessee River in the 17th and 18th centuries, the French and the British invented their own names for the river. It wasn't until the 19th century when the river took the name Tennessee after a Cherokee village called Tanasi. For both the Union and Confederate armies, East Tennessee and the Tennessee River became vital nexuses during the Civil War. With the Smoky Mountains looming large to the east, the main passageway for troops and supplies relied on Knoxville, Chattanooga, and the river that flowed through them. Both sides coveted Chattanooga because it was the gateway to Atlanta, which would ultimately lead to the conquering of the entire South. To get to Chattanooga, either side had to control the Tennessee River, which meant controlling Knoxville, virtually the first domino to reach the gateway of the South. As the Tennessee River was uncrossable by foot troops, anyone wishing to move their armies across it would need to control it to build and hold pontoon bridges long enough to allow crossing of the river. Many important Civil War battles were fought along these cities and the river that connected them. Ultimately, the holding of these locations by the Union gave them a foothold from which to launch their fatal campaigns into the South. For the last 200 years or so, the Tennessee River has been used to transport a multitude of goods all across the state and the South. Economies were birthed and prospered along the banks of the Tennessee River. Even today, companies still use the river to bring materials to their factories and businesses. With the introduction of the Tennessee Valley Authority, on the back of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal, came a great change to the region. A more robust hydroelectric system powered the World War II effort, but also brought the people of Greater Appalachia into the 20th century with electricity. The indirect effect that TVA has had on the Tennessee River is its creation of lakes and great places for recreation to take place throughout East Tennessee. Between riverboats, ski boats, fishing boats, and the like, TVA turned this area into a dream for those who like to enjoy fresh water. Perhaps the greatest achievement of the work on the Tennessee River has been the tons of locks that have been added throughout the water system for travel. This has allowed anyone to continuously travel from Knoxville to the Gulf of Mexico by way of the Tennessee River. More than 13,000 recreational travel boats pass through these locks every year. The Tennessee River officially forms upstream from Knoxville where the French Broad and Holston River converge. Shortly after, the newly formed Tennessee River flows into Knoxville, where it continues southwest through the East Tennessee Valley to Chattanooga. Once in Chattanooga, it changes course westward into Alabama. Eventually, it passes Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and then the river changes course again as it touches Mississippi before rising north back through Tennessee and into Kentucky to meet up with the Ohio River. As previously mentioned, TVA changed the topography of large parts of the Tennessee River due to their projects. The Tennessee River has 9 dams that control the flow of the main branch of the Tennessee River. Those dams are Fort Loudon Dam, Watts Bar Dam, Chickamauga Dam, Nickajack Dam, Guntersville Dam, Wheeler Dam, Wilson Dam, Pickwick Landing Dam, and Kentucky Dam. The Tennessee River is considered the 5th largest river system in the United States. Due to its large size, there are tons of tributaries that branch off on their own as it winds across the southern landscape. Some of those include the Holston River, the French Broad River, the Little Tennessee River, the Clinch River, the Hiwassee River, Chattanooga Creek, Flint Creek, Beach River, Big Sandy River, Horse Creek, and others. When Tennessee became part of the Union in 1796, a border between Tennessee and Georgia had to be created. This border was supposed to follow the 36th parallel. This would make part of the Tennessee River enter Georgia for a short time. However, in 1818, a survey incorrectly set the border a mile further south than the 36th parallel, leaving the Tennessee River to never enter Georgia, which still stands today. This survey led to a massive water rights dispute for the next 200 years. Even though Georgia tried to counter the 1818 survey by creating surveys aligning with Congress's original border decision, they were largely unsuccessful. During a massive drought in 2008, the issue was reignited when Georgia threatened to take Tennessee to the Supreme Court over the matter. Nothing came of the threat, though, as generally the U.S. Supreme Court would likely not get involved. The debate has gone back and forth over the years, and the dispute is still not settled today. Tennesseans blame Georgia's unregulated growth of Atlanta on their need for more water, a sentiment Florida and Alabama agree with, as they claim Georgia's use of water that flows into their states has caused economic issues for them. As is the case throughout Appalachia, the Tennessee River is known for its unique and extreme biodiversity. The river is home to many types of fish, but is especially known for its population of both the channel catfish and the blue catfish. Also living in the waters of the Tennessee River are over 100 species of mussels. These mussels were eaten by Native Americans and used as a binder for their pottery clay. Mussels also spent time in the limelight as a source for pearls. That is, until plastic pearls replaced the natural mussel pearl. Unfortunately, over time, the mussel population has decreased massively through pollution and dam construction. In recent years, the Tennessee River has experienced pollution problems. Even with the new standards today, waters are becoming more polluted than ever. In a 2008 study, scientists found that a major pollutant of the Tennessee River was pharmaceuticals. Throughout the hundreds of miles of river, these pharmaceuticals are ever present in the water. Imagine what this does to all the organisms that inhabit these waters. It's not a good situation. If we don't take care of what we have, there will come a time when we don't recognize it anymore. The Tennessee River has a rich history and has played a role in events that went on to change the United States forever. Even before America, the Tennessee River gave birth to populations and societies of people because of the natural resources it had to offer them. Without this river system, and others like it, humans wouldn't have thrived as they do today. So when you are riding down the Tennessee River, think about all it took to build this robust river system and everything the Tennessee River has to offer us. Then find a way to preserve it.